You have an idea. You have had it for 2 years, 3 months, and an indeterminate number of days that you have stopped counting, because counting them makes the delay feel more real than you want it to feel. The idea is good. You believe this with the specific conviction of someone who has thought about it long enough that the thinking itself has become a kind of evidence. You have turned it over from every angle. You have identified the market. You have sketched the economics. You have imagined, in more detail than you would admit to anyone, what the version of your life looks like where you built this thing and it worked. You have not started, not because the idea is wrong, not because the timing is wrong, not because you lack the capability or the resources or the contacts or the courage in any simple nameable sense. You have not started because starting means the idea leaves the protected space of your imagination and enters the unprotected space of reality, where it can be tested. And testing means it can fail, and failing means something about you that you are not yet ready to know. This is where every business that ever existed began, in that exact moment of not yet starting. Building a business is not, at its core, a financial decision. Every financial analysis, every market sizing exercise, every projected revenue model and break-even calculation is downstream of a decision that is not financial at all. It is a decision about identity, about which version of yourself you are going to inhabit going forward. The version that works within structures other people built, or the version that builds a structure of your own. The version that is employed, or the version that employs. The version that executes someone else's vision, or the version that is accountable for their own. Neither of these is better. The employed version is not less ambitious, or less valuable, or less worthy of respect than the version that builds. Most of the world runs on people who are excellent at working within structures. The economy requires them. If you are watching this video, you probably already know which version you are trying to become. The financial outcomes of that version are real and worth understanding. Let us walk through every level. Level 1, the idea stage. You research everything. You read every book about entrepreneurship, every case study, every post-mortem from founders who built and failed and wrote about it with the specific clarity that only comes after the failure has been fully absorbed. You build spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are detailed, more detailed than any spreadsheet you have built for an employer, which is information about your motivation that you do not fully process at the time. Model 3 scenarios: conservative, realistic, and optimistic, in which the optimistic scenario involves assumptions you would describe as conservative if anyone asked. You attend networking events. You connect with founders who are 6 months further along than you and ask them questions that reveal, in their specific texture, that you have not yet done the thing they have done. They give you advice. The advice is good. You take notes. You do not start. Research feels like progress. It has the complete texture of productive work, the effort, the engagement, the sense of moving forward, without the one thing that distinguishes it from actual progress: contact with reality. You can research for years and never be wrong, because you have never tested anything. The first business lesson, which no amount of research can teach, and only starting can provide, is that the only information that matters is the information the market gives you in response to something real. Everything before that is preparation. Preparation is valuable. It is not the same as starting. Level 2. First revenue. First money someone pays you for something you built lands in your account on a Tuesday. The amount is not significant. It is $180 from a client who found you through a referral you barely remember making for work that took you longer than the rate justified. You do not think about the rate. You do not think about the margin or the time or whether this is the right kind of client or whether the work is scalable. You think, someone paid me for this. Someone looked at what I built, decided it was worth something, and exchanged something irreplaceable, their money, which represents their time, which represents a portion of their life, for it. That exchange is the most important event in the early life of any business. Not because of the amount, because of what it proves. The idea was not just an idea. There is a person in the actual world who wanted what you made enough to pay for it. That is not a projection or a model or a conservative estimate. That is a fact. And facts at this stage are extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily valuable. The 180 changes what you believe is possible in a way that cannot be produced by any amount of planning. It is the first signal that the gap between the idea in your imagination and the thing that can exist in the world is smaller than the 2 years of not starting implied. Level 3, 0 to 5,000 monthly revenue, the business is real now. Not large, not stable, not proven at any meaningful scale, but real in the sense that it is generating income consistently enough that the question has shifted from whether this works to how well it works and what it needs to work better. You are doing everything, the product or service, the sales conversations, which you find easier than you expected or harder than you expected, depending on which day and which client. The follow-up, the invoicing, the accounting, which you are doing badly and know you are doing badly, but have not yet reached the pain threshold that will make you pay someone to do it correctly. Customer service, the social presence, the operations, the strategy. The quality of your work across these functions ranges from genuinely good, the things you were already good at, which are probably the reason the business exists, to functional, the things you have learned by doing them badly enough times that you have stopped making the worst mistakes, to actively poor, things you do not know how to do and have not yet accepted that you need help with. The skill you are developing at this level is not business skill in any specific domain. It is something more fundamental and less glamorous. The tolerance for imperfection in motion. The ability to keep moving when the product is not quite right, pitch is not quite landing. The systems are held together with the business equivalent of tape and optimism. The willingness to be bad at things publicly while you learn to be better. Level 4, 5,000 to 20,000 monthly revenue. You hire the first person. The process of doing this is more complicated than you anticipated in every dimension simultaneously. The practical dimension is manageable. The contract, the onboarding, the payroll setup, the tax implications that your accountant handles, the patience that confirms you made the right decision to finally get an accountant. These things are solvable. You solve them. A psychological dimension, something nobody prepared you for adequately. This person is now spending their professional hours inside something you built, contributing to it, dependent on it, with a livelihood that is partially a function of your decisions, your judgment, your ability to keep the business growing in the direction it needs to go. That weight is real. It arrived the day they started, and it has not left since. The management dimension reveals something about yourself that the solo phase of the business could not. Whether you are the kind of founder who builds people up or burns them out, who communicates clearly or assumes understanding, who delegates genuinely or micromanages dressed as delegation. You are learning this about yourself in real time through the evidence of how your first hire is responding to working with you. The transition from founder to manager is the most underestimated shift in entrepreneurship. The skills that built the first 5,000 in monthly revenue were primarily individual skills. The skills required to reach 50,000 in monthly revenue are primarily people skills. They are different, and most founders discover this later than is comfortable. Level 5, 20,000 to 100,000 monthly revenue. The business runs without your direct involvement in every decision. This took longer than you projected and arrived differently than you expected, not as a single moment of operational liberation, but as a gradual loosening, a slow transfer of decisions and processes and responsibilities to people who have learned the business well enough to carry it. You have time now, not unlimited time. The business at this level demands significant attention, and the quality of that attention matters more than the quantity. But you have the rarest resource in entrepreneurship, unscheduled hours in which the primary activity is thinking rather than doing. What you do with those hours determines, more than any other single factor, what the business becomes. The founders who use them to go deeper into the operations, to remain involved at the level of decisions that others could make, because the involvement feels safe and the letting go feels dangerous, and to build businesses that plateau at approximately the level they reached when they started giving those hours back to operations. The founders who use them to think about the business they are trying to build 3 years from now, to work on the strategy, the model, the market position, the structural decisions that create the conditions for the next level of growth, tend to build something that keeps growing after they stopped being the reason it grew. Level 6, 100,000 monthly revenue, and beyond the business is now a serious company. It employs people whose careers are meaningfully shaped by what happens here. It has a culture, not the culture you described in a deck or articulated in a values document, but the actual culture, the one produced by how decisions get made and how people are treated, and what behavior the organization rewards and what it punishes. You are the primary author of that culture, whether you intended to be or not. Every founder is. The way you respond to failure sets the standard for how failure is handled throughout the organization. The way you treat people under pressure establishes what pressure looks like here. The things you pay attention to, the things you ignore, the things you celebrate, and the things you let slide. These are the curriculum of the company's culture, delivered continuously, whether you are aware of teaching or not. At this level, the most important work you do is often not visible as work. It is the conversation you have with a senior hire who is considering leaving. It is the decision about which opportunity to pursue and which to decline. It is the way you handle a significant failure in a way that either builds or destroys trust across the entire organization simultaneously. The financial outcomes of a business at this level are real and significant, but they are downstream of the leadership, which is downstream of the identity, which was the original decision made in the moment of not yet starting about who you were going to be. The trap. The trap has a name that sounds productive and functions as the most effective form of avoidance available to an intelligent, capable person with a real idea. The trap is called optimizing before validating. It looks like this. You spend 3 months building a website that converts beautifully before you have spoken to a single potential customer. You invest in a logo, a brand identity, a color palette, a visual language that accurately represents the business you intend to build before the business exists in any form that could be represented. You form a legal entity, open a business account, and set up an accounting system before you have earned the first euro that the accounting system would track. You write a business plan. The business plan is thorough, well-researched, and built on assumptions that feel conservative because you have stress-tested them against scenarios you constructed, therefore control. The business plan is a document about a business that has not been tested by reality. It is a description of a hypothesis, not a report on an experiment. All of this feels like building a business. Every item on the list is, in isolation, a reasonable thing for a business to have. The logo matters. The legal structure matters. The plan matters. What none of it produces is the one thing that matters more than all of them combined. Evidence that someone in the real world will pay for what you are building. That evidence can only come from one place. It comes from showing the thing, the incomplete, unbranded, unoptimized, embarrassingly version of the thing to actual people and watching what they do. The most successful early-stage businesses in every industry share one characteristic across the extraordinary diversity of what they built and how they built it. Their founders found the shortest possible path to a paying customer and walked it immediately, before the website was finished, before the brand was right, before the plan was complete. The imperfection of the early version was not the problem. The imperfection was the point. It forced the engagement with reality that no amount of optimization could produce. The business you are optimizing before anyone has paid for it is a business-shaped object. It looks like a business from every angle. It functions as sophisticated avoidance. And the distance between a business-shaped object and an actual business is the single most expensive gap in entrepreneurship, measured not in money, but in months and years, and the version of the work that never got to happen because the starting kept being deferred until the conditions were right. The conditions are never right. The right conditions are produced by starting, not by waiting for them. The philosophical close: you have an idea. You have had it for 2 years, 3 months, and a number of days you have stopped counting. The version of you that starts is not braver or better or more deserving of success than the version that does not. They are simply the version that answered a different question. At the moment the question presented itself, the question was not, will this work? Nobody knows that. Not you, not the advisors, not the founders who have built something similar, not the investors who would fund it. The future of any specific business is genuinely unknowable in advance. And the certainty projected by people who claim otherwise is a performance, not a prediction. The question was, is the cost of not trying higher than the cost of trying and failing? For most people who eventually build something, who look back at the business they built from the vantage point of having built it, the answer was yes. Not because failure is cheap. It is not cheap. It costs time, money, relationships, and a specific kind of confidence that takes years to rebuild after it is lost. Because not starting costs something that does not appear on any financial statement. It costs the version of the work that might have existed, the specific thing only you could have built with your specific background and perspective and accumulated understanding of the problem. That version of the work, unlike a failed business, does not leave evidence. It simply does not exist. The not existing of it is a loss that is real, even though it is invisible. The idea is good, probably. You will not know until you test it. You will not test it until you start. Gap between the idea in your imagination and the thing that can exist in the world is always smaller than the years of not starting implied. The only way to know how small it is to start.